The Toronto Blue Jays torch the Colorado Rockies after taking 1 out of 3 at home against Kansas City. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Scott McGregor, and this is Sports for Beginners. Welcome to Blue Jays Weekly Recap. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. No matter how you slice it, Blue Jays fans, the boys in blue, red, and white are the leaders in the American League East Division, and they have the best record in baseball at 68-48. My name is Scott McGregor. This is episode number 23 of season 4. And it is the beginning of a new era and a new direction in our Blue Jays baseball coverage that may be coming to Pittsburgh Penguins coverage as well. More on the Pittsburgh Penguins a little bit later, but we're talking about Blue Jays here on this show, and we're also going to slide in a little courtside action, take a look at the WNBA later on. Speaking of the segment formula, as you know, we always like to do these in baseball terms with leading off, or rather a segment we like to call the lead off to lead the show off. And that will be the same format for Blue Jays Weekly Recap. What will not be the same is that Blue Jays Weekly Recap will be a week-to-week show, and some of its installments will not drop on the day a episode of season 4 is being recorded to drop on that day. So not very many of these will be season episodes. You can catch these episodes, which are part of season 4, including this one, at a later time frame on the ice and behind the benches. I, of course, will be the host, and that pretty much kicks us off in our leadoff with our Welcome to Blue Jays game recap. Before we wrap up the lead off here, the segment 2 of our show, our middle segment, will kick us off with new guys playing in Toronto. What is that segment about? Well, that's about basically the transactions made by the Blue Jays as to who has been seen playing since the trade deadline for the Blue Jays and since they acquired these new Blue Jays. That's coming up in a few moments' time. Also, as part of our lead off, we will be talking about the series covered. In this episode, we're covering the homestand, which featured the Blue Jays playing 3 against the Kansas City Royals, in which they lost 2 of the 3 games, but took 1 out of the 3. We will also cover the Rockies road trip, which was a sweep of the Blue Jays sweeping the Rockies in Colorado. And also later on in our show, after we take a timeout to go on the court for a little bit, we will be covering the series at Dodger Stadium between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, set to start late night tomorrow night on the East Coast. That is at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We will get you set up with who will be the Friday starter and the other probables should we know them over the course of the show. Of course, that will be during last call. And speaking of the segment before that, that is our halfway mark. That will be time for some courtside updates on Let's Go Courtside, our basketball segment that will be featured throughout season 4, as we await the NBA preseason and 2025-2026 NBA season, as well as the NHL regular season, and so much more. But we're going to be focusing on the WNBA when we get to that point. All right, we've done a show overview. Let's get to the leadoff, which is. We've welcomed you in. We've explained how Blue Jays Weekly Recap is going to work. On certain weeks that we do this show, Let's Go Courtside will be our third segment of the show if we do 4 segments a show. When we don't do that, the third and final segment will be our closing moments, and our leadoff segment will be our series covered in this episode, as well as where the middle segment kicks in, an update around the league when the middle segment will kick in. When we are not doing courtside updates in the WNBA or in the NBA, rather, we will be playing in the middle segment updates around the league, around the MLB, to be more specific. All right, with that being said, let's kick things off in our leadoff with, first of all, my overall thoughts on the homestand with Kansas City. Blue Jays open up a series with the Kansas City Royals, fresh off of a 9 win over the Baltimore Orioles to take 1 out of 4 against the Orioles as they were swept in the doubleheader on Tuesday, July 2025, 3-16-4. They also lost the opener of that game, of that series, I should say, 11-4. They lose the opener of the Kansas City series 9-3, but a couple of new guys in the fold making some noise here. We had Ty France go 0 for 4 in game 1. Sir Anthony Dominguez was not used in game 1 of the 3-game set, I should say, not 4-game set, 3-game set. The Orioles had a pretty good start. However, in match 2, Hall of Famer Max Scherzer, he's not a Hall of Famer yet, but he's a soon-to-be Hall of Famer, was absolutely shoving. He did enough to get the win. Ty France 1 for 4 in the game. We also had Ali Sanchez bring up some good hits. He had 1 hit in 2 at-bats, having to come in for Tyler after Tyler scored a run, but didn't get an opportunity to hit the baseball. In this contest, he was hit by a pitch and would have to leave the game, so Ali Sanchez took over. Max Scherzer, as I mentioned, shoved 5 Ks over 6 innings of work. He did give up 1 home run in the second game of the 3-game set, but the Blue Jays able to pick up a 26th save of the season for Jeff Hoffman, who managed to shove 2 strikeouts for the win. This would be a 4-2 final in favor of the Blue Jays. Blue Jays record at this point in time was 64-47. It improved to 65-47 and then dropped to 65-48 when the Royals and the Blue Jays go into extra innings and 5 runs come in to score in the 10th inning. Blue Jays get a bit closer, but they would lose this game 7-4 by 3 runs and 2 errors. Sir Anthony Dominguez, speaking of a new guy, he would be credited with the loss. His record 2-4 when being credited with losses. Blue Jays starter Chris Bassett went 6 innings, shoved 5 strikeouts, did not allow a home run in this game, but he walked 3 Royals. Jeff Hoffman also into the game in this game. No save opportunity for him here, and also no chance for a win. So Jeff Hoffman's record is 6-4. He remains at that record as of right now. Chris Bassett has a record of 11-5. His career is a regular season career record of 83 wins and 61 losses. So the record for Chris Bassett is 83 wins, 63 losses. 61 losses, the career record. His record in the regular season so far, 11-5. All right, so not too much that I did not like from Sir Anthony Dominguez, who has started. We also acquired Shane Bieber in a trade, and we also have Brandon Valenzuela, who has yet to make his big league debut in the Toronto Blue Jays after being acquired by the Jays in a trade. Shane Bieber also has yet to make his Blue Jays debut. We have 6-game homestand coming up for the Jays after the Dodgers series. We have 4 6-game homestands coming up for the Blue Jays, including the Cubs and the Rangers, Minnesota and Milwaukee after a 6-game homestand, road trip, against Pittsburgh and Miami. 3 games in Pittsburgh, 3 games in Miami. And then, of course, we go to a 7-game road trip later in the month of September after a final 6-game road trip where 3 games will be played in Cincinnati and 3 games will be played in New York against the New York Yankees. Houston Astros, Orioles, they are coming into Toronto early September. Late September, it's Boston and Tampa Bay to close it out. All right, so let me look at our record here. We're 68 and 48. The Dodgers are 66 and 49. The Dodgers are not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. They are actually the first place leaders right now by 2 games in their division, the National League West. Milwaukee is leading their division by 4 games. They lead the Cubs by 4 games, and they lead the National League Central on a 6-game winning streak right now. Their record is 70 and 44. The leaders in the NL East are the Philadelphia Phillies at a record of 65 and 49. Now, back to Kansas City for a second. Kansas City and the Toronto Blue Jays, at the end of that Kansas City series, Kansas City was 56 and 56. So they were at 500. Their current record since that series, and of course the Blue Jays losing the 3rd game of that series to go to 65 and 48. That is not the Blue Jays' current record. The record currently for the Jays, 68 and 48. Kansas City Royals, their current record right now is 57 and 58. Okay, they may be that far off against Detroit, but they're not far off of Cleveland. All right, anyways, we're going to talk about in the continuation of new guys playing in Toronto. We're going to talk more about Sir Anthony Dominguez and Ty France. How have they contributed in the Miami Marlins series? The Colorado Rockies, I should say, series, excuse me. I meant to say Colorado Rockies, not the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins are coming up later in the month of August. So, with that said, after this quick break and a word from our friends at Broadcast Map and Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time, we'll talk about the Rocky series, talk about Sir Anthony Dominguez and Ty France. We'll also get into some contributions made by current Blue Jay players, including also talking about where the Blue Jays are at as far as transactions go, because they have let a few guys go, including Chad Green, who has been released as of late, and they also have released Ali Sanchez as well. Well, actually, Ali has been designated for assignment. But anyways, Chad Green has been released. Kirk went on the IL, got activated, and we'll talk about it more in just moments. First, let's take a word from our friends at Sienna T Radio and Broadcast Map, episode 23 of season 4, titled Sports for Beginners presents Blue Jays Weekly Recap, continues in just moments. We talk about the Rockies, talk about Ty France, talk about the transactions, talk about Sir Anthony Dominguez. We're also talking about Blue Jays breaking a record during that Rocky series. It's all coming up next. Plus, what's going on around the WNBA, our courtside conversation of updates coming up in mere moments. And later on in our last call, who's got the opener against the Dodgers and who else is pitching in this series? We're setting up the Dodgers and the Blue Jays later on in the show. But first, let's go to the Rockies and the Jays coming up next. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 23 of season 4. Welcome back in to Sports for Beginners, and of course, our episode of conversation on episode 23 of season 4 of Sports for Beginners is the first installment of Blue Jays weekly recap. In case you missed it earlier, we talked a little bit about how the show will be run right off the jump. We are going to do things no differently with a lead-off kicking things off. That will be one of the lead-off topics we do. Of course, Blue Jays weekly recap will be slightly season related, but mainly bonus content related being recorded. With that out of the way, it is 3:07 p.m. Eastern as we continue on. Before the break, I mentioned we're going to talk about transactions, and I also mentioned we're going to talk about the Rockies series. Before we get to the Rockies series, which would showcase some more flashes of new guys playing on the Blue Jays, others, I mentioned Ty France, and I also mentioned Sir Anthony Dominguez. So, before we go any further and go into another series with some thoughts that I will have on it, it is important to note that as of August 5th, 2 days ago, the Blue Jays designated Ali Sanchez for assignment. They selected the contract of first baseman Buddy Kennedy to come up from the Buffalo Bisons. The Blue Jays on August 3rd, quite busy, optioning shortstop Leo Jimenez to the Buffalo Bisons. Shane Bieber was sent on a rehab assignment in Buffalo on the same day. Blue Jays also released Chad Green and activated catcher Alejandro Kirk on that day from the 7-day injured list. Early in August, the Blue Jays activated Dalton Varsho from the 10-day injured list. They also activated Louis Varland. I'll go with Louis Varland, making sure I get that right. And apologies if I pronounce it wrong. Ty France was also activated, and on August 1st, Alejandro Kirk went on a rehab assignment in Buffalo when the Blue Jays optioned Paxton Schultz to Buffalo as well, and they placed right fielder George Springer on the 7-day injured list, retroactive to July 29th, 2025. in concussion. So we certainly hope George is okay. We certainly hope Tyler Heineman is okay. We also hope for the best with Ali Sanchez. He has been designated for assignment. Blue Jays also without Will Wagner. He was traded to the San Diego Padres at the July 31st deadline for catcher Brandon Venezuela. Louis Varland coming in from Minnesota in a trade that also had Ty France come to Toronto, Alan Roden and Kendry Rojas going to Minnesota in the deal, and Shane Bieber, as we know, was acquired in a trade for right-hander Hal Steven. I'll go with K. Steven just in case I pronounce it wrong. And if I pronounce Steven's name wrong, I apologize as well. Lots was made official and lots was happening over the course of July, even into the July 31st deadline. But let's go back now to August, our current month. Let's talk Rockies. Blue Jays absolutely pounding the Rockies, winning game 1 on Monday night 15-1, game 2 on Tuesday night 10-4, and they absolutely pounded the Rockies 1 on Wednesday night. I'm saying Wednesday night because by the time this drops, it will be Friday, August 8th, 2025. The series with the Rockies went from August 4th to August 6th, 2025, which were Monday to Wednesday. Off day today on Thursday, the time of our recording. They will begin a 3-game series with the Dodgers when this show drops on August, I should say, the 8th of 2025, August 8th. The 2025 first pitch of game number 1 with the Dodgers set for 10:10 p.m. Eastern, 7:10 p.m. Pacific, 9:10 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. 8:10. All right, we'll get to that in a moment, but let me just talk before I get into my thoughts on the players that took action in this series. Let me just talk about, and I actually took a picture of this when it was on the screen because I was watching all of the series. I'm not going to show it to you on the screen here, but I am going to reveal it through my phone because that's how I took the picture. But the Blue Jays smashing some franchise records, including the most hits in Blue Jays history in a 3-game series, which in 2022, 3 years ago, was 51, and that was against Boston. They also had 40 runs in a 3-game series, also against Boston in 2022. In 2015, that record was 48 hits and 36 runs against Mike Trout's Los Angeles Angels, and that was on August 21st to 23rd of 2015. July 22nd to 24th, 2022 was when that record was broken. 3 years later, the Blue Jays break that record with a smacking of the Colorado Rockies. They swept that series, which was the 4th to the 6th of 2025 in August. The new franchise record of hits and runs in Blue Jays history in a 3-game series is 63 hits and 45 runs scored. The same could be said for the Colorado Rockies in another way. Some bad news, if you will. But anyways, the Blue Jays set 2 new franchise records within that 3-game series alone as they get ready for a 3-game set with the Dodgers. Reminder of the records: Blue Jays are 68 and 48, the Dodgers 66 and 49. It's a battle of the first place American League East and the first place National League West teams. Also first place in the American League and in all of baseball are the Blue Jays. And of course, it's the second place National League leaders in all of baseball with the Milwaukee Brewers particularly with the best record in baseball at 70-44. They are the current leaders in the National League, and they also lead the National League Central. All right, quickly here before I get into some of my thoughts on that Rocky series, quickly here. Only 3 games left on the slate. One starting in about a few moments from now. That will be the White Sox and the Mariners. That game scheduled to go at 4:10 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to that. Coming up also around 3:10 p.m. Central, 1:10 p.m. Pacific. At 6:40 p.m. Eastern, we've got the Pirates hosting the Reds. And later on tonight at 7:15, the Marlins taking on the Braves. That's at 7:15 p.m. tonight, Eastern. Earlier today, Athletics improved their record to 51-66 with a 6-0 smackdown of the Washington Nationals. The Nationals moving from 45-68 to 45-69 in terms of records. Records for the games still to come as they prepare for play. The White Sox are 42-72. The Mariners 62-53. The Reds 60-55. The Pirates are 49-66. 49-66 are the Pirates. The Marlins 56-57. The Braves 47-66. Those are the current records for those games about to get ready to go on this Thursday. All right, thoughts on this series? Well, it was anything but what I expected, Blue Jay fans. Worst team in baseball as it's been portrayed versus one of the best teams in baseball. And the Blue Jays certainly put on a show at Coors Field. Key contributions from Ernie Clement, who had on Monday a 5-for-6. He had 5 hits in the game in 6 at-bats. Bo Bichette also with a couple of contributions. He went 3-for-6 with 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. Ernie with a triple, double, RBI, and 3 runs scored. Nathan Lukes also getting in on the action with 2 doubles, 2 walks, an RBI, and 3 runs scored. Oh, by the way, we haven't seen this from Dalton Varsho before. Well, we have seen it before, but we haven't seen it lately. But Dalton Varsho has arrived. In Monday's game, he hit 1 home run, and then he followed it up with a 2 home run performance in Tuesday night's game. Also a home run off the bat of Hunter Goodman. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a home run as well. Both Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Dalton Varsho with home runs each. Varsho with 1 extra. They both went 3 for 5, in the game. Hunter Goodman, who received some credit in the game for top performers, goes 2 for 3 with a home run, a walk, and 2 RBIs, as well as 2 runs scored. Blue Jays getting contributions from everybody, even the bench guys, those that didn't start the ball game. And to add to that, Kevin Gausman putting on quite a show as he got the start in the finale of the on Wednesday afternoon, that was an afternoon game, shoving 8 strikeouts, 2 batters walked in 7 innings of work, 7 innings of 1-run ball. Wow, what a fight and what a battle. Kyle Freeland did not have an easy night, but neither did anybody else starting in the game for Tuesday and Monday night. Freeland went 4 2/3, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run, 2 walks, 6 earned runs, 7 hits given up, 4 2/3. Not a great night for him, but he was able to at least get into the 5th inning. Okay, I do like what I've seen. Let me get into some of the thoughts here from some of the Blue Jay contributions. I do like what I am seeing from Louis Varland right now, even when the Blue Jays haven't had to use him. I do like what I'm seeing, but I also like what I'm now seeing from Ty France. He had a pretty good day on Wednesday. Tuesday, it was okay. Sir Anthony Dominguez, though, has really, really impressed me. He really has. He really has. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, time for a baseball break. When we come back on this Blue Jays weekly recap, baseball talk takes a backseat for a little bit as we go on the court with Let's Go Courtside next. What's going on around the WNBA? Find out when episode 23 of season 4 continues, where we have hit the halfway mark of the show. Last Call is also on the horizon. But first, before we get to Last Call, which will be setting up the series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, as well as next time on Sports for Beginners, and when the next Blue Jays weekly recap will be. Before we get there, as we are at the halfway mark of the show, it's time for some courtside updates. And we'll do that next. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait! I think I made it! CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Thank you guys so much for being with us here on episode 23 of season 4, our first installment of Blue Jays Weekly Recap. I am your host, Scott McGregor. Thank you guys so much, I should say, for joining us here. We preview Dodgers, Blue Jays momentarily. That's coming up in Last Call momentarily. But first, time for us to share the screen because it's time for a little women. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go courtside. Let's go courtside. I gotta get a jingle going there for that. All right, anyways, let's go courtside. Let's take a look at some of the news surrounding the WNBA. I also have the Score app active as well for some updates on that front. Today, we have a couple of games on the slate here. Starting at 8 Eastern, we will have the Atlanta Dream taking on the Chicago Sky. That should be a great matchup. Records going in to the showdown. The Chicago Sky are 8-21. The Atlanta Dream 18-11. Tip-off is at 8 Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern. Later on in the evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, there is also a free league pass preview to this game. It's the Connecticut Sun taking on the Los Angeles Sparks. And rumor has it, I'm not sure if the rumor is true, but rumor has it that the WNBA Connecticut Sun will be relocating to Boston. I will figure that out myself. Two of these games you can watch on Prime Video. They are the Atlanta Dream at the Chicago Sky. That's coming your way at 8 p.m. Eastern. On Sportsnet, catch the Connecticut Sun against the Los Angeles Sparks. That is the 13 and 15 Los Angeles Sparks against the 5 and 23 Connecticut Sun. The Indiana Fever, 17 and 13, they will take on the 18 and 11 Phoenix Mercury. That game also available on Prime Video, with coverage starting at 10 p.m. Eastern at tip-off. Pre-game coverage most likely starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Once again, the tip-offs, 8 Eastern for the Atlanta Dream and the Chicago Sky, 10 Eastern for Connecticut Sun, Los Angeles Sparks, and of course, Phoenix Mercury hosting the Indiana Fever. At the time of our recording, that is our schedule for Thursday, August 7th, 2025. 3 games on the slate tomorrow. At the time this show drops, they will have a couple of early starts. 2 games at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. They are the New York Liberty visiting the Dallas Wings and the Washington Mystics taking on the Minnesota Lynx. Both games at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch on League Pass in Canada if you're catching it from there. Also available on League Pass later at 10 o'clock, it's the Las Vegas Aces against the Seattle Storm. The Seattle Storm and the Las Vegas Aces have recently played. The last game the Aces played was against the Golden State Valkyries, which they won 78-72. The Seattle Storm also playing in a game they played on August 5th. That was Tuesday. They fell to the Minnesota Lynx 891. So the Lynx beat the Storm. The Aces, however, in their game, which was on Wednesday, August 6th, their last game was on August 6th, they beat the Golden State Valkyries 72. It's going to be interesting to see what else goes around. As we take a look at the standings here, I'm going to take a look at our standings by showing you the screen again. First, we'll take a look at the Eastern. First, we'll take a look at the conference view by Eastern and Western. Then we'll take a look at the seeds elsewhere in the Western Conference, including league-wise. Now, here on the WNBA website, it does not quite yet say who is number 1, but according to the scorer, the number 1 team right now is the New York Liberty in first place of their conference. The Atlanta Dream behind them, Indiana Fever behind New York Liberty, Atlanta Dream, and ahead of the Washington Mystics, Chicago Sky, and Connecticut Sun. It has not been a good year for the Connecticut Sun. Let's go to the Western Conference and take a look at our seeds there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at it in the Western Conference, I'll look at it also on the Score app. Download the app for yourself to follow your favorite team all season long. The Minnesota Lynx are leading the charge in the Western Conference, followed by the Phoenix Mercury in second, Seattle Storm third, Las Vegas Aces fourth, Golden State Valkyries 5, they are fifth. The LA Sparks, the Los Angeles Sparks, I should say, are sitting in the 6th spot, and in the 7th spot, it's the Dallas Wings. For the league, the best team in all of the WNBA is the Minnesota Lynx, with the New York Liberty stomping for second, followed by the Atlanta Dream, Phoenix Mercury, Indiana Fever, Seattle Storm, Las Vegas Aces, Golden State Valkyries, Los Angeles Sparks, Washington Mystic, Chicago Sky, Dallas Wings, and right at the bottom of the barrel at number 13, it's the Connecticut Sun. Now, Connecticut, Dallas, Washington, Golden State, Seattle, Indiana, all on losing streaks. Minnesota, New York, Atlanta, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Chicago, all on winning streaks. In their last 10 games, the Minnesota Lynx are 8-10. I should say 8-2, excuse me. The New York Liberty are 6-4. Atlanta Dream also 6-4 in their last 10 games. 5-5 the Mercury in their last 10 games. Okay. Pretty good. So some pretty good areas. But it looks like the Los Angeles Sparks might be picking up steam. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Los Angeles Sparks might be picking up some steam. Let's take a look at some news, shall we? Yeah, let's go ahead. So, there is a trade tracker going on right now in the WNBA. The most recent trade transaction, JC Sheldon has been traded to the Connecticut Sun. Sorry, she has been traded from the Connecticut Sun to the Washington Mystics. Aaliyah Edwards has also been traded from the Washington Mystics to the Connecticut Sun in the deal. That is the current deal that was made today. 2 days ago, deals were made for the Mystic and Seattle Storm. Seattle Storm trading Alicia Clark and Zaya Cook to the Washington Mystics to get Brittany Zykes, I should say. I'm going to go with Brittany S, in case I pronounce that wrong, who is headed to the Seattle Storm. On Sunday, Diamond Miller was traded from the Minnesota Lynx to the Dallas Wings, along with Carly Samuelson also heading to the Wings. DeJona Carrington heading from the Dallas Wings to the Minnesota Lynx in a trade. With that in mind, and this is a swap. The JC Sheldon trade is a movement for draft rights. It's a swap for draft rights. According to Chico N, actually, this person put the article together, but I'm pretty sure someone else had this reported on Tuesday. But anyways, according to the report, it says the Washington Mystics trade forward Aaliyah Edwards to the Connecticut Sun for guard J.C. Sheldon and a 2026 first-round swap. Right, the teams announced Thursday, which is today. Washington now has the option to swap the Minnesota Lynx 2026 first rounder for the New York Liberty's first rounder in the same draft. General manager of the Mystics said, "We are excited to welcome JC to the Mystics and think her skill set, energy, and team first approach will be a great fit for us." That was in a statement. They also added, "She is a competitor and leads through the example of her work ethic she has built on her solid rookie campaign and demonstrated an ability to shoot the ball and read the game on both ends of the court." Okay, that's quite a way for a trade. I like this trade. This looks like a good trade. By the way, season of WNBA action wraps up next month, so not a lot of basketball left in the WNBA season. Action will continue in September, starting on Monday, September the 1st, with lots of action on tap on Monday in 3 games. One of those games is on at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's the Atlanta Dream being hosted by the Connecticut Sun, and that is Monday, September the 1st at 1 Eastern. You can watch the game on September 1st on Sportsnet between the Dallas Wings and the Minnesota Lynx at 8 Eastern. That is a good game. That'll be a good one. That'll be a good game, I'm telling you right now. That'll be a really good game. As someone who doesn't watch the WNBA as closely, that will be a really good game to watch on Sportsnet if you're watching on the Canadian broadcast. All right, that'll do it for a quick WNBA update, and that'll do it for our segment, Let's Go Courtside. But in case you missed it earlier, for WNBA fans, 3 games on the slate tomorrow. The games on the slate today, as of the time of our recording: Indiana Fever taking on the Phoenix Mercury at 10 p.m. Eastern, right after the Atlanta Dream take on the Chicago Sky. Game time is 8 Eastern. And later on tonight on Sportsnet, 360 most likely, catch the Connecticut Sun taking on the LA Sparks. That's at 10 Eastern. At the same time, the Indiana Fever take on the Phoenix Mercury. All right, before we go to break, dun 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 dun, it's time for the wake up. Not the wake up. It's time for the tune-ups. As of today's recording, the NFL preseason starts today with the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Indianapolis Colts, the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Philadelphia Eagles at 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight, Ravens and Colts at 7 p.m. Eastern, and later on tonight, the Seattle Seahawks host the Las Vegas Raiders 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll be on the air after the Bills game with a Sunday drop of our post-game coverage, covering quite a packed Saturday. That's right, Bills fans. Bills post-game is back on the air, and for the first time, it's on the air during tune-ups. Bills will play their first preseason game against the New York Giants this Saturday. But enough about that. Be sure to tune in to Bills post-game after Bills and Giants. Scheduled to drop on Sunday. It will be pre-recorded, probably early Sunday, and drop later in the day on Sunday. But it's going to be a pretty packed show for a little preseason action on Sports for Beginners. All right, we wrap it up on this episode of Sports for Beginners, our first installment of Blue Jays Weekly Recap, episode 23 of Season 4. Wraps up with Last Call coming up next. Right after this word from our friends at On the Ice and Behind the Benches, we will give you the tea on what's on deck for episode 24 of Season 4 of the podcast. When is the next Blue Jays Weekly Recap? Will it be a season episode? Will it be a bonus episode? And of course, it's time to set up that upcoming series with the Jays. The 68 and 48 Jays versus the 66 and 49 Dodgers. Who's got the start in game 1? Who is probable game 2? And who is probable in game 3? We set up Dodgers Blue Jays in Last Call next as we wrap it up on the other side. This is Sports for Beginners, and you are listening to our first installment of Blue Jays Weekly Recap, which wraps up on the other side. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment. Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Blue Jays Weekly Recap on episode 23 of Season 4 of Sports for Beginners. Continue. I am your host, Scott McGregor. It is 4:12 p.m. Eastern Time. We are back here with you for a little bit while longer. Let's just quickly jump in to previewing the Dodgers and the Blue Jays series. This will be a timeline where we will have our host of Blue Jays game recap from On the Ice and Behind the Benches jump in and tell us what we can expect on Blue Jays game recap. What we will do at this point in the show is talk to Thomas, or I've asked Thomas to record a little bit of what we can expect on the next Blue Jays game recap. You won't get a taste of that in this episode, unfortunately, and that will be after our celebration episode, which is a Monday from next Monday. Mark your calendar. What was a day in 2022 when host of Broadcast Map, originally known as All Over the Map, On the Ice and Behind the Benches host, and myself, Scott McGregor, brought you the beginning of Sports for Beginners together. I would like to let you know that, ladies and gentlemen, we will be celebrating that particular day when we started recording, which was a Thursday in 2022. This coming Monday, not this Monday, the next Monday following. Of course, it will be a pre-recorded show, but we will be celebrating 3 years of Sports for Beginners, Monday, August 18th, 2025. Show may drop on Tuesday, but it is a Monday show. So that will be episode number 25 of our 4th season of the podcast, following episode 24 of season 4. And here's what you can expect on that one. We'll continue covering the Buffalo Bills as they prepare to tune up for their final 2 preseason games before the regular season kicks off this season. And of course, we'll keep an eye on those Dolphins as well as they prepare for their season, I should say. I'll even give you some extended thoughts on the Bills' Saturday game against the Giants that I may not have given you on our Bills preseason postgame show. Preseason shows, by the way, can only be heard right now. They will only be heard on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. But the regular season shows for Bills and Dolphins will be heard on both Sports for Beginners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches. So we will be talking about the Bills' performance against the Giants, no matter who played. I'll give you what I liked, what I didn't like. That's coming up on episode 24. Also coming up on episode 24 of the podcast next week, which is August 5th. We'll see if we can get it recorded after the Cubs series, but I will give you my overall thoughts on the Cubs series and what we can expect when the Rangers take on the Blue Jays. And we'll wrap it all up with a little look around women's hockey in a women's hockey talk conversation during last call. Not quite yet sure what's cooking in the PWHL, but tomorrow there is going to be a big announcement. I wonder what it could be. We'll find out tomorrow. As for the next Blue Jays game weekly recap, that will be following the road trip series in Cincinnati, concluding on September the 3rd, 2025. And that will feature series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Miami Marlins, Minnesota Twins, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Cincinnati Reds. We may also include the homestand against the Cubs and the Texas Rangers. But right now, all you can get from that is Pittsburgh, Miami, Minnesota, Milwaukee, and Cincinnati. That will be next time on Blue Jays Weekly Recap. Show will be set to drop the day before we drop our next season episode, which will be our 1st of September, dropping ahead of the New York Yankees series. Find out what's on tap on those shows as we roll on through August. And one last thing, on the next episode of Weekly in Sports, the Beast is back in WWE at SummerSlam's historic 2-night event. The Beast returned to the WWE. I'm talking about Brock Lesnar. And also on the Friday before SummerSlam, the real John Cena returned to WWE SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. We're talking SummerSlam. We're talking Blue Jays. And you can bet we'll be talking some women's sports. Will we have a guest on the show? Probably not, but we will see. That is our first show since the MLB All-Star break, as we took July off for Weekly in Sports. With that said, that will do it for us here today on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, baseball fans. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. And Blue Jay fans, lights up, let's go. I am Scott McGregor, and this has been Sports for Beginners. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginners podcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.